A very good morning to all our viewers. This is WION Wallet. I'm Sumit Chaturvedi. Let's go straight to our top headlines. US President Donald Trump tightens H-1B visa norms aimed at bringing high-skilled jobs back to Americans. Donald Trump signs an executive order yesterday. After India presses its thumb, fugitive liquor baron Vijay Mallya detained by UK's Scotland Yard but was later released. Meteorological Department of India released this year's monsoon forecast. Hints at having a normal monsoon this year. Good news for Indian economy. And India's Finance Minister Arun Jaitley leave for 5-day visit to US. Key agreements on trade and commerce tops the agenda. Now, the Indian Met Department or IMD has released this year's monsoon forecast and says the monsoon is expected to be normal this year. Now, reports suggest that rainfall may be 96% of the normal with an error margin of about 5% on either side. The IMD added that there is more than 50% chance of El Nino effect developing from August monsoon predictions, and these are critical for the Indian economy, with agriculture in the country still largely dependent on weather patterns. However, last month, weather forecaster SkyMet had said it expects monsoon for 2017 to be below normal. Indian Finance Minister Arun Jaitley will leave on a 5-day visit to US today. Jaitley will be participating in the spring meetings of the World Bank and IMF as well as deliberations of G20 nations. During his stay in Washington and New York, he will hold meetings with American CEOs and institutional and pension fund investors, where he will pitch India as a favorable investment destination. The official delegation led by Jaitley includes Economic Affairs Secretary Shaktikanta Das and Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramanian. Jaitley and Patel will participate in G20 meeting on April 21, which will focus on financial sector development and regulations and other issues. Later, Finance Minister will attend International Monetary and Financial Committee, which is IMF's introductory session on global development and prospects. Now, Jaitley is also slated to hold a meeting with US Treasury Secretary and participate in the Development Committee plenary meeting of the World Bank too. Now, Indian businessman Vijay Mallya, who has been declared a proclaimed offender, was arrested and later released in London on Tuesday by Scotland Yard on India's request for his extradition. A 61-year-old liquor baron appeared before Westminster's Magistrates Court in London for his hearing, where the court granted him bail. Now, Mallya, whose now defunct Kingfisher Airlines owes more than 9,000 crore to various banks, had fled India on March 2, 2016. In January, an Indian court ordered a consortium of lenders to start the process of recovering the loans. India had given a formal extradition request for Mallya as per extradition treaty between India and the UK through a note verbal on Feb 8. Earlier in January this year, a CBI court had issued a non-bailable warrant against Mallya in 720 crore rupees IDBI bank loan default case too.
वेस्टमिनिस्टर कोर्ट के अंदर उनको जमानत पर लिया गया है। जो जानकारी में हमारी आया है, आगे तथ्यों की हम जानकारी कर रहे हैं कि कैसे उनको हम अपने देश में वापस लाएं और उनके खिलाफ कानून के हिसाब से कार्रवाई करें।
So we are hopeful that now we see a ray of hope that Dr. Mallya one fine day would probably be extradited to India, and the government will recover our dues and pay us back our dues.
Now, if Vijay Mallya is extradited, he will be the second Indian to be extradited from the UK. A CBI court issued a non-bailable warrant against Mallya 3 months back in the loan default case. Now, India's CBI team will leave for London shortly to extradite him. India, which has an extradition treaty with the UK, asked Britain last November to extradite nearly 60 people, including Mallya, to face trial in the Indian court. Now, India wanted Britain to extradite Mallya to face trial. A formal extradition request was filed on February The extradition process includes a judge's decision to issue an arrest warrant. Then the person is arrested and brought before the court for a preliminary hearing, followed by an extradition hearing. Now, before a final decision by the Secretary of State, the suspect has a right on appeal all the way to Supreme Court of India. Well, this can be cancelled Mallya's passport, and government can ask UK government to deport him. But the foreign minister was saying that India's deportation request was not covered under UK laws. Now, that's because it allowed visitors to stay back even if their passport was not valid any longer. Now, business and aviation tycoon Vijay Mallya, who launched the now defunct Kingfisher Airlines, has been charged with cheating and conspiring the CBI with a 1,000-page charge sheet for $1.4 billion loan default. Well, the CBI probe found that 250 crore rupees of this given to buy aircraft part was diverted abroad. Now, Vijay Mallya co-owns the Force India Formula One team. He has a base in London as well as a home bought from the father of world champion Lewis Hamilton. Mallya attended 21 races last year and watched the rest from his control room in his mansion in London. Now to our biggest global news. Now, US President Donald Trump has ordered federal agencies to look at tightening a temporary visa program to bring high-skilled foreign workers to US. Now, seeking to carry out a campaign pledge to put America first, Trump signed an executive order on enforcing and reviewing H-1B visa on a visit to headquarters of Snap-on Inc., a tool manufacturers in Kenosha, Wisconsin. In the document known to the White House as the Buy American and Hire American order, Trump also seeks changes in government procurement that would boost purchases of American products and federal contracts, with one aim being to help US steel makers. Now, H-1B visas are intended for foreign nationals in occupations that generally require higher education, including science, engineering or computer programming. Now, the visas are awarded by using a lottery system. Critics say the lottery benefits outsourcing firms that flood the system with mass application for visas for lower paid information technology workers. Now, this will impact Indian IT sector for sure.
I will be signing a Buy American and Hire American executive order. You haven't heard about that in a long time in this country. With this action, we are sending a powerful signal to the world. This historic action declares that the policy of our government is to aggressively promote and use American-made goods and to ensure that American labor is hired to do the job. It's America first. You better believe it.
Now, bad news for India on visa from Australia too, where Australian PM Malcolm Turnbull is abolishing 457 visa program for skilled immigrants. Why should you care? Because Indian Institute and they constitute, 20% of migrant population in Australia and 27% of those who work using 457 visa. Now, Mr. Turnbull said these visas will no longer be passports for jobs that could and should go to Australians. Turnbull said that they should be hiring more and more Australians.
The 457 visa is abolished. It will be replaced by a new system that will be manifestly, rigorously, resolutely conducted in the national interest to put Australians and Australian jobs first. That's our commitment. Australian jobs, Australian values.
Now, news back from India, where following Prime Minister Narendra Modi's call to conserve fuel, outlets in the 8 states will be shut every Sunday beginning May 14. According to Consortium of Indian Petroleum Dealers, the decision was made in view of Prime Minister Modi's call during his recent Mann Ki Baat program to conserve oil to save the environment. Nearly 20,000 outlets in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Puducherry, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra and Haryana would be shut for 24 hours on Sundays. The fuel outlets, which normally have about 15 staff each, would have 1 staff member on the holidays to provide fuel if there was an emergency situation. Moving to US, where United Continental reported sharply lower first quarter earnings, but they still bested analyst expectations and the airline vowed to remake its customer service after its rough treatment of a passenger stoked global outrage. Now, net income for the period ending March 31st fell to $96 million, a 69.3% plunge from the year-ago levels due to higher fuel and labor cost. Revenues were up 2.7% to $8.4 billion. United, which has been under fire since ordering a customer forcibly removed from an overbooked Chicago flight last week, projected passenger revenue per seat mile would post its first positive growth in 2 years in the second quarter. The closely watched benchmark was flat in first quarter. United CEO Oscar Munoz acknowledged much work remains to be done after company's violent removal of passenger David Dow from an overbooked flight prompted widespread public condemnation after a video of battered Dow went viral. Now, Dow suffered a broken nose and concussion and is planning to sue the airline. Now, Munoz himself came in for heavily criticism for his response early in the crisis, in which he appeared to put partial blame for the incident on the passenger, saying in a note to employees that he had defied authorities and compounded the incident. With this, it is time for a short break on WION Wallet. After the break, we will continue with our coverage of markets. Stay tuned to WION. Welcome back to WION Wallet after the break, and now straight to markets, where Indian markets have opened flat, but they are trading in green as of now. Nifty is up by around 5 points and Sensex is also up by around 30 points, which is not a big improvement, but we can say that yes, they have opened in green. Moving on, Asian markets declined today, tracking Wall Street's negative close overnight, with resources and financial shares losing ground. Stocks in Japan fell, with the Nikkei off 0.18% and the Topix slipping 0.18% too, despite earlier briefly popping into positive territory. Now, Australia's shares were also lower, with the S&P ASX 200 down 0.43%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index shed 0.47%, while on the mainland, the Shanghai Composite was off 0.37% and Shenzhen Composite lost 0.34%. In South Korea, Kospi shed 0.36%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average in US fell 113 points or 0.55% to 20,523 points. The S&P 500 lost 6.83 points or 0.29% to 2,342, and the Nasdaq Composite dropped 7.32 points or 0.12%. Now, to talk more on markets, we are joined by our guest Dhaval P. Vyas, who is founder and chief market analyst of TPV Investment. Good morning, Mr. Vyas. First of all, how do you see this positive news of Indian monsoons being normal? How far can it take markets now?
Hi, good morning. See, definitely it will help, buyers, in a sense, bulls, basically, in a way or two. But overall, the bigger picture is basically we started the up move in basically December around 7,900 spot levels, and we ran towards the levels of 90 to 60 plus levels in Nifty. Now what has happened is basically the main major channel or major support has been broken basically in last 2 days. So that should be a cause of concern for bulls, at least for short term, maybe 2 or 3 days. Because there would be, a chance of nearly 50-70 point downside in Nifty. Positional traders probably still need not to worry. But overall, the trend of the market is basically, for medium-term perspective, is still positive. But we need to look at it, technical-wise. Then, definitely there should be a little cause of concern right now.
And Mr. Vyas, yesterday when the news of Vijay Mallya's arrest came, clearly Indian banks were rejoicing. All banks shot up, their share prices shot up at this very moment. Now they have come down. Do you think that it is too early for Indian banks to rejoice or to make good of these news? Because it will take a lot of time for Indian government to bring back Vijay Mallya. What do you have to say on Indian banks as far as the solving of NPAs is concerned, or tightening the news against these defaulters is concerned?
See, I think, it would be too early for them to, thinking of, rejoicing, because, Mr. Mallya would have, the best lawyers there. And then, again, it would be, taking much of the time. So I don't think there would be any positive news coming out of this in next 1 or 2 months. But overall, the idea is basically we need to look at it from the structures wise. If you look at the PSU banking chart, then it doesn't look that great in a sense. The upside potential from current levels looks bit of limited. So we will wait for a dip of nearly 5 to 7% in all the PSU banks, and then basically we can have a positional buy in the PSU bank since the overall trend is up. But definitely at the current levels of basically 3350, we don't think the index has much to go up from the current levels. So around the levels of maybe another 150 point down in the PSU bank index, that can be a a good opportunity to initiate any buying.
And Mr. Vyas, I would like to ask you one more thing, because now US has tightened news on visas. Australia has also, made it difficult for Indians to go and work in Australia. The US is more news which will be damaging for Indian IT companies. How do you see Indian IT companies react to that during the day-to-day?
See, it can, definitely, have a impact for a quarter or maybe 2 quarters. But overall, the idea is ultimately, IT companies in India basically will try to find another way to basically, reshape their basically or restructure their model a bit, and then focus on the things basically where we are basically lacking. In a sense, if you see in the Indian companies, then there is no great in a sense products like Microsoft Office from India. So we can look at the point of view from product focusing. If we can generate things like that, then it would definitely be giving age in years to come. But this is a good time to basically restructure your business models.
And now RBI the Reserve Bank of India has asked banks to be cautious of telecom sector loans. Clearly, telecom is not a good sector to invest at this moment. That's what we would say.
Definitely. See, when this kind of basically killer competition comes in the picture, especially at the industry level, then it would definitely hurt the margins as well as the basically the long-term sustainability of debt pricing for consumers. No, without a doubt, basically customers are at benefit, but overall the idea is basically this may not last a long in a sense. But definitely, this is a kind of another, trendsetter kind of year where we can, have the base as 2017, and then, people or the telecom companies can plan their strategies over a time for the years to come. But overall, the data has definitely shifted to basically internet data, and then your focus is data. So telephone calls will not cost too much. But overall, the idea is basically small companies will definitely hurt. Vodafone, Airtel, and the Jio will continue to have their edge on their own ways. But definitely, the content focus basically will be the main driver for these companies, and that is what we see. So Jio definitely will impact in years to come.
Also, Mr. Vyas, Asian markets are mixed. We can see that Straits Times is down, Nikkei is up, while Hang Seng is down by around 150 points. So what is the reason there? Why are they down? And going forward, what do you see happening to the global markets? Because there's so much of geopolitical tension over there that finally they are not able to find a ground where they would settle down. Every day something or the other happens. Do you think this volatility in the global markets will continue here?
We definitely believe, because this is not just for a specific market or even specific region. It's not about only Shanghai or maybe Asian markets or only FTSE. But the idea is basically it has been happening basically all over the world. The markets, equity markets in specific, haven't been able to hold on to their higher levels, and are a bit of struggling to hold on to their gains. So overall, the idea is basically definitely we are seeing a deep sideways movement, mostly downward trend in short term, and probably these are the good opportunities when the markets move like this in an uptrend. So you continue to buy things like in FTSE or maybe even Nasdaq is looking good at current levels if you are looking at 4 to 5 months perspective. So we believe these are the opportunities, and if you connect this with the Indian market, we are also seeing, a kind of basically cooling off from the higher levels. So these are the, good signs probably, and, we believe that this dip should be, bought into, because we are just on a basically, a move to another big rally in next 2 to 3 years time. So that is what, we believe.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vyas, for talking to us and bringing us all these details as far as Indian and global markets are concerned. Now, moving on, and fintech startup in India, Paytm, which is run by 197 Communications, is in talks with Japan's SoftBank Group to raise $1.2 to $1.5 billion in cash in a deal that could raise Paytm's valuation to $7 to $9 billion. Now, the deal, which has been in works for nearly 3 months now, will see SoftBank buying some shares from existing Paytm investor, SAF partner and founder Vijay Sharma, as well as investing money in the company. Now, Paytm, which is India's second most valuable internet firm, may also buy Snapdeal-owned payments firm Freecharge in a fire sale, though the fundraising is not contingent upon the proposed buyout. Getting SoftBank on board as a large shareholder will help Paytm reduce the control of Alibaba and preempt possible government concerns about a Chinese firm having a strong hold on Paytm. The fund infusion, one of the largest investments by a single investor in an Indian startup, would make SoftBank one of the largest shareholders in Paytm, the country's top mobile wallet, which is set to launch a payments bank. Getting SoftBank on board as a large shareholder will help Paytm reduce the control of China's Alibaba Group holding, currently its largest shareholder, and preempt possible government concerns about a Chinese company having a strong hold. Now, financial services is considered as a strategically important sector. SoftBank and Alibaba are themselves intimately connected. The Japanese company was an early backer of Alibaba, and its initial investment of $20 million turned into a stake worth more than $60 billion when Alibaba listed its shares in 2014. Now, that's all we have for WION Wallet watchers today. For more news and updates, stay tuned to WION, and thanks for watching us.